Hello, namaste, and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of Bharat Awakens. I'm Anjali Swamy, and this is episode number 9. Dear viewers, there's an old saying, health is wealth. So, Bharat, where Ayurveda and other ancient healing sciences have flourished, is awakening now to the benefits of natural healing. So, for our latest episode of Bharat Awakens, we will discuss the role of Bharati traditions in improving physical, mental, and spiritual health as well of people around the world. And joining us today is Srimati Shobha Swamy from Atlanta, Georgia. She's an engineer by training, a certified nutritionist, and having raised a family in America, she now devotes her time to improving physical, mental health of our community. And she finds time to take a leading role in community initiatives in these challenging times. And then we have our regular team, Dr. Nivedita Haran, Dr. Narayanan Komerath. Please welcome all of them. I am once again delighted to have Shobha Swamy and, of course, our very own Dr. Nivedita Haran and Dr. Narayanan Komerath. Welcome all of you to the 9th episode of Bharat Awakens. Now, my first question is to Shobhaji. Shobhaji, I've given a brief introduction and you're not a new name in America. But what I want to ask you, what has been going on recently and whatever is happening in America, how do you think it's affecting Hindu American and Indian youngsters?
There's a heightened awareness in America. Let me begin by saying namaste to all your viewers of Bharat Awakens. And thank you for that wonderful introduction as well, Anjali. Around all across the US, I think students, youth, and all the other bystanders as well are awakened to the heightened sense of what's going on around the world, whether it be the Ukraine-Russia war or the conflict that's going on and the war that's going on between Israel and Palestine, and many other issues around the globe are brought to the helm or brought to the attention of most of us. And as you all know, the college campuses across the country are seeing an active participation in many of these current events going on all across the globe.
So, my next question will be to Nivedita ji because she has grown up in India. She's currently in India. She's been a part of the administrative services. There is a lot that she has seen in India. So, how do you see these developments relating to the experiences in India? Nivedita.
Maybe muted.
Are you muted? I think she seems to be a little frozen.
Frozen, yeah, I think so. The screen seems frozen. That's why we are not able to hear her.
Yeah, that's right. But it's okay. Let me move on to Narayananji in the meantime. Narayananji, I'm sure even you would have had some experiences. You have grown up in India, and we all know that he's been a professor. Oh, looks like she's coming back.
Yeah, good. So I'll just say namaste again, and so good to see you, Shobhaji. I used to be in Atlanta also, remember, and so she's a very familiar figure there and a leading figure. Thank you. I think if Nivedita is here, let's go on to her first.
She's not here yet,
Okay, okay. So
Nivedita.
yeah, from my perspective, um, I, I, I think the what is happening in American universities today is probably in the news, and I think what is happening there is pretty familiar to me at least. Um, Brought up in Kerala. This is on the one hand, I have to remember that history is written by the side that wins. So we cannot predict how people will look at current events 20 years from now. Young people, particularly university students, have often been the first to take a passionate stand throughout history, often very sincere, and they later turned out to be on the right side of history. At least when they grew up, they were the ones who wrote the history. When I was growing up, there was the Vimochana Samaram, or the War of Liberation, in Kerala schools against the then government. And they followed a predictable pattern of escalating protests. That's what I want to point out. And the intent was to bring down the state government. They did succeed. It was a clear progression. First, you make sure somebody throws stones at buses. Then the police will react, and then throw the stones at the police. Eventually, trigger a lathi charge, baton charge, whatever. That injures mostly the bystanders. So now there are horrific headlines, and then escalate until police have to open fire, usually killing another innocent or innocents. And when that happens, the government has to resign. So this is a familiar pattern. And I just want to jump down to, there are many examples here, but let's just say that that seems to be what is happening. So it's many are sincere, but I think behind them are people who are not, and they may be sincere with their own agenda, but agenda is not the published agenda. So let's go on to hear from others, and I'll come back to this. Is Nivedita here, or I should go on?
She
I should just go on. Okay. Well, I'll give you just a few more examples. In the United States, this is not very new. There were fierce protests against the Vietnam War. Case in point, and they led eventually to deaths of students in police gunfire at Kent State University. I think that's in Ohio. I really haven't looked that up. That became the big talking point. Even though 55,000 American soldiers and millions of Vietnamese had died in the same war, this became the big talking point. So I would say that is actually the objective here. Get some students killed. I'm sorry to say that. And that's the cynical objective of the people who might be behind it. At that time, of course, Americans had the very real prospect of conscription. The draft was hanging over students' heads. So at least they had a reason to be very, very concerned, and fear and anger and all these things are there. But there are other examples. The environmental movement in the United States. If you go to the United States today, there you don't see much dust floating around. There are grass on either side of every highway, hardly any bare ground to be seen. Why is that so? That happened after so many people got beaten up in street protests. And yet it is because of them that we are able to breathe well in America today and get clean drinking water. This really impressed me driving all over the United States, how much things changed from what was called the Dust Bowl era of the 1920s, 30s, whatever. I think students were in the vanguard of movements to bring universal adult suffrage. Remember, the United States did not allow women to vote until ridiculously recent times. You got to bear that in mind when you hear all these pompous declarations from the leadership, or the regime, as they call everybody else. And civil rights laws. I'm sure students were in the vanguard of that. Very, very essential. So having said that, one must take a deeper look at present protests in the overall deteriorating environment of American universities. And I tell you, long ago, the university campus was considered a natural gathering place for people to meet and share opinions. Wonderful. But today that happens already on social media. So you really don't need to go to the university campus to meet people. Now the main purpose of these campus gatherings and protests is really to generate violence, like I said. Destroy property if that's what it takes to force a response. But force a response by authority, hopefully get a few students killed. I'm sorry I say hopefully. That's hopefully from the point of view of those who hope for that. And that is their victory. And these are organized by cynical outsiders with immense amounts of money. See, all the tents used on different campuses all look exactly identical, as somebody pointed out. the funding is coming from the same place, a tradition of utter violence and cruelty. So that is why I feel that both in India and the United States, what can we do? I think the time has come to declare that every university campus is a politics free zone. You go there to study. If you're not there to study, get out. Go off campus, pursue other compulsions. Okay, Nivedita is here. Let's go to her.
Yeah, thank you, Nivedita. We thought that
Yes.
you may not be able to join, but yeah, thank God you're back. So, again, I'm going to ask you the same question that with the experience that you have had in India, how do you see that these developments that have recently happened in America, how does that relate to your experience in India?
Yeah. Thanks, Anjali. And I'm so sorry about that
Oh, not
mix
at
up. I
all.
don't know what happened. I just disappeared. Um, anyway, so yes, Anjali, I think I'm so happy that you are doing an episode of this nature, and you've got a very prominent and an eminent expert. In India, growing up, uh, especially us, the post-independence, much later independence generation, we grew up to believe that anything traditional was suspect. It was steeped in superstition. And we were almost, I have seen people, the elder generation, almost being apologetic about our past sometimes. And I think that something, our colonial past has much to do with it. So take our food habits. Millets were actually supposed to be a part of our uh, diet system, but it was totally banished from our diets for various reasons, which we are not going into right now. Same way, many of our habits, our customs underwent a lot of what I would say, uh, people call it modernization, but I would say it was actually dumbing them down in a sense. A lot of fruits, food, vegetables disappeared from our plates just because it was not the in thing, it was not the right thing. I remember my grandfather, for instance, would always start say that your meal should contain the five tastes, and I don't see anyone practicing. I'm sure there are people like Shobhaji who are practicing it, but that's gone out of our lives now. Same with our lifestyle. But we can see the impact now. Having grown up here, having brought up my children, I see the impact that it is having, and the impact is mostly negative, unfortunately. And let me just mention about mental health. Uh, I think the children are uh, the earlier generation, in that sense, my generation, we have forgotten to teach our children some of the basic values, honesty, the difference between right and wrong, humility, respect for the elderly people, civic sense, discipline, punctuality. These things seem to have gone out of the window. I regret that this has happened. And we always moan that in India we have so much of corruption. And I think the basis of corruption lies in the absence of these values, Anjali.
So it looks like this is becoming universal. This lack of honesty, integrity, caused by, you can say, some kind of an imbalance in the mental health. I don't know. I'm just throwing some terms out there, but it seems like having a ripple effect from America. It's because everybody likes to copy the American culture, but then we are only trying to take what is negative out of every culture. So somewhere what you're saying, that it is connected to the intake that we are having in our body. Like, there are things that you mentioned which as a child you used to have when or you have seen other people have when they were children, but apparently those things are gone, maybe replaced by fast food. uh, so I mean, that's the thing which I hear from my parents also. I'd like to know from Shobhaji that, Shobhaji, you have been a nutritionist. What do you think? Do you think that these things are interconnected? human behavior, the diet that they are taking inside, and then the values that uh, we are showing, and how the way we are operating as a society. Do you think there is an interconnectedness?
Most definitely, Anjali. Just like Nivedita mentioned, um, many of our ancients had in-depth understanding of nature, how we connect with ourselves, our community, and nature as a whole, the entire Jagat, as we call it. But I think, like you were mentioning, modernization has brought about a lot of good things. Industrialization has brought about so-called conveniences inside our home. But the food has changed in a very big way. So also, based on the modernization, industrialization, refrigeration, ability for us to transport food from one part of the country to another, long distances, and preservation of food through all these means, all these have brought about a huge change in the way we view food and what we consider now as food. Nivedita ji was also mentioning about fast food. That has been a very big detriment to modern human health, to the extent that younger and younger populations are getting subjected to um, food-borne illnesses. Most of these are lifestyle and food-borne illnesses, that of health, not just the physical health, but mental health as well. So, food is a very integral part to play in terms of fueling our bodies. And just like we would put the right kind of fuel in a car, if it was a diesel car, we would put a diesel fuel. If it's a petrol car, we would put petroleum, so on and so forth. And a high speed race car, we would put, high octane petroleum and so on and so forth. So also our bodies need to have the optimal food. And what is optimal food? As grown in nature. It's very simple if you think through it and understand that we should be really eating food whole, in its whole form, as grown in nature, very minimally processed, which means it shouldn't be coming out of a factory, it shouldn't be coming out of an industry, it shouldn't be coming out of a package, or a box. These are all just some guidelines in terms of being able to live active, healthy, and vibrant lives, yet enjoy delicious food that are, known for different cultures through years now and decades. Every culture has their own cuisine that they showcase, that they espouse, and they're very proud of. So we should be able to enjoy all these foods, yet live active, healthy, vibrant lives, and not succumb to the common chronic diseases that we're seeing, such as, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, different forms of cancer, autoimmune illnesses, and different conditions that are afflicting younger and younger populations. You'll be surprised to hear that 14-year-olds in the US are showing signs of diabetes, are showing signs of hypertension, are showing signs of high cholesterol. So we are noticing that our lifestyle has a huge role to play. So also a lot of the changes that have taken place um, in modern life and living.
So, Narayananji, you have been exposed to the best of both worlds. And in addition, you have been a professor in the United States. So, what is your perspective on all this?
So yeah, let me. Of course, food is my favorite subject to talk about, and I think anyone who hasn't seen the WhatsApp group run by Shobha Swamy is really missing. I got out of that because I could not stand to see the daily stream of delicacies coming through there. But in India, I have to be careful what I say because the Supreme Court has dragged in some very prominent people and beaten them up for what they call false advertising. Uh, but I have this to say, I am one of these people who was diagnosed with chronic illness way back 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and the doctor said, "Look, this is for a lifetime. It's a degenerative. It's only going to get worse. All you can do is control it." And I did have the best of both worlds. I had the best medical care that one could buy in the United States. I mean, that, and my doctor is very good, Indian too. So I got the best advice and whatever they could prescribe, but things were not getting better. I would be under control, and then one day the disease would take over again, and until I started listening to some of this advice. Okay, and I have to tell you that that's why I'm alive today. Okay, and I knock on wood, the disease may come back, but it's right now I'm fine. Okay, I'm healthier than I've been in a very long time, and it was listening to such common sense advice, particularly from Shobha Swamy, along with good diagnostic techniques, mind you. The best in diagnostic techniques came in there. So there is a merger there. There's nothing wrong with using the best of Western or wherever developed or Japanese usually developed technology. But the common sense comes from our ancient traditions. I mean, we've kept the race alive for millions of years. There must be something that we're doing right. And this is really, really very good advice. Thank you.
So I'll turn to Nivedita again. That how does this relate to what is happening in the Indian society today?
Yes, it most definitely does, Anjali. And just as what Shobha said and what Narayananji said, I think these have to become part of our lives now, our lifestyles. It has to be propagated and spread in our society in such a way that people realize that it is their health we are talking about. It should be done in our homes, the kind of food we eat, the parents, in the hostels where the children are eating. In the context of hostels, I want to mention something here, Anjali, and this is something I was talking to a professor about recently. As you know, there is a lot of demand from students to go in for engineering and medicine in India. It's almost it's scary sometimes, and these are children between 14 and 16 years of age who are sent off by their parents to these coaching institutes, and they spend 4 years of their lives there. I know this is a subject I think Professor Narayanan would be more competent to speak on. But what I'm trying to say is that these are children, and I met some of them in Kota. These are children who actually told me that they survive on sandwiches and pizza. They don't know what chapati tastes like anymore because they have been away from home for 4 years. Is that the kind of lives we want for our children? And to top that, Shobhaji, I don't know if you know about it, suicide rate amongst these children is so high. In the last 5 months of the current year, there have been 8 reported suicides amongst these children. And these are bright young kids. So what I'm trying to get at is that there is something drastically wrong and we need to make a change. So whether it is starting to teach in our schools something like values, it need not be anything religious or spiritual even. It could be something to do with values. How do you live your life? What kind of values should you follow? Some kind of moral science, as we used to have when we were in school. And then the impact of social media. We were lucky when we were growing up because there was no social media. Now it's immense and it's so strong. Children go astray very often. So there are so many other complications that children are facing these days, which was not there earlier. And therefore, not just us as we are discussing here, but everyone in every home, every parent, every teacher, every person should start thinking on these lines. How to have a healthy lifestyle, food, what Shobhaji said, eating food in a natural form as much as possible. I think these are things that we should start discussions on, and so that we start making changes, however small. It should become fashionable to talk about these things. Anjali.
It's very interesting that you say this, Nivedita, because I did some readings just some time back, and I read pretty much the same thing, that fast foods made with refined flours, they do tend to accelerate the feeling of depression in kids. They're already have if they even if they are not having it, it'll induce the feeling of depression. If they're having it, it's going to accelerate it. So I'm surprised to hear this, because I was thinking that it is only in America that the kids, especially the Indian kids, they are, they have this thing about, oh, I don't want to eat Indian food. They like to eat pizza, sandwiches. It's pretty much the same thing. We have also studied here in the United States, and I know how much I used to stay away from subways and these kind of things. But so, would like to know a little bit of your opinion, Shobhaji, on this habit of eating sandwiches and pizzas while you are in college.
Yeah. Unfortunately, college is somewhere that it's hard for students to make their own choice of foods, and convenience, long hours at school, and demands such as this make it very difficult for them to access healthy and nutritious food. Um, but I think cafeterias across the United States are trying really hard to provide some level of, healthy foods as well, so people can have a choice of picking healthy. Um, and making it available for the students. So I think things are changing in a big way. You do get good amount of vegetables, good amount of fruits, which are key in terms of our eating towards a healthy, productive lifestyle. And like Nivedita ji was mentioning, mental health is also a huge component of the foods that we eat, as well as there are other lifestyle factors that dictate how we do, not just on college campuses for youth, but across all ages, from youth to adults. So there are several factors that we need to keep in mind with regards to youth. Definitely, their the relationships with their peers and with the community, uh, in terms of their mental health, and to strengthen them in their strive for reaching success, and defining some of the definitions of these things for youth, as well as providing wonderful tools. um, our culture and tradition, way back from Bharat, our Sanatana Dharma, has a lot of tools that we can provide for youth that will come in really, really helpful and handy as they maneuver through life. So
Well,
I would
really,
let Narayan ji probably
yeah,
say a few words about it. Yeah,
absolutely.
since he's
Yeah,
been on college
he
campuses
has
and
been
he's
on
been
college campus.
working with youth.
Right. I was going to
Um,
ask him that, and I also want to get back on this topic of, about tools that the students can use. But yes, to Narayanji, for you, since you've interacted so much with the college kids, is there another side that you can see which we don't?
uh, yeah, I'm afraid because Shobhaji here is a parent of some former students where I, I used to teach. But I do have a slightly different perspective to bring here, perhaps from the point of view of the hated engineering professors. But let me just say this. What has happened in American universities is actually familiar to us in India. And again, I'm sorry, the Americans are following our example, particularly Kerala, and it's truly sad. But I think the rot is much broader and deeper than whatever you see in the news from day to day. It has been going on for a long time. Let me just tell you a few things. As a brand new junior teacher, first time I ever taught, And I wasn't even a teacher then. I think they just said, you're an whatever research engineer. Why don't you try teaching this course? Okay, sophomore course. And it was interesting, but they kept track of what I was doing. And there was an army major, considered much older than all the other students, for example, who was there learning whatever. And he said, hey, Komerath, I want to make a deal with you. I can't do all these assignments and stuff that you give these students. So why don't you just give me a B is good enough. I don't want an A, and just don't bother. I mean, this is a combat veteran, helicopter pilot. Somebody I admired, no doubt, and considerably older than me. So the next time I was at lunch with the school director, he asked me, hey, how's that course going? And I said, look, this is what the major said. And I said, what should I do? The major, in my opinion, is heading for an F. And the director just looked at me, and you could see him almost go through the ceiling. All he said was this: you got to be objective. If you're not objective, you got nothing. That's our old concept of Satyameva Jayate. He finished his lunch right away, marched out of there, called the major to his office. And to cut the story short, the major did every assignment quite well. I think he got a B or a C, I can't remember, but through his own effort. That environment has changed in American universities. Today, you're much better off making that deal. So in those days, everyone in the school was expected, down to, it doesn't matter whether you're teaching or not, everyone in the school was expected to care deeply and see every student as a treasured individual. And we had to study them carefully and understand them. Take the trouble. If you can't solve a problem, go ask somebody else. We spent our lives, literally, we didn't have any other interest, trying to see how best we could make their dreams in life come true. That was the real definition. Okay, find out what is their real dream in life and see how we can make their dreams come true. But they had to do the work. They had to grow up. We could not do that for them, and we were not going to do it for them. And we would tell them the truth about their performance. Because that, I think they expected us to tell them the truth more than anything else. But then we succeeded. The institution, led by our own school, became famous, shot up in the national and international rankings, and every parent wanted to bring their child. Like Nivedita ji said, there were people dumped into a school who had no interest in what we wanted to do. But hey, it's a top-ranked school. You got to get a degree from there. And then they brought in a new kind of administrators. Okay, and I'm going to say this because I'm no longer employed there, and it's far enough away. A new dean of students came in, declaring, I quote exactly, he was going to save the students from the faculty. Save the students from the faculty. And I knew right then the downhill slide was accelerating. It has turned into a disaster in many institutions. Here's what happens. 95% of the time and attention is wasted on the 5% who are not there to study and who should not really be there. Okay? And they are there to pursue other agendas. Instead of the 95% of others pulling up these misguided 5%, which is what is supposed to happen in a university environment, the 5% are being allowed to pull down the 95% into the gutters with the full support of the administration. Okay, read the news that you see and view it in that context, and you'll see what is happening there. The true victims here are the students who see the university, and I've had so many letters from such students. They see it as their one chance in life for them to rise. Okay, our school had the lowest fees for the quality. They couldn't increase the fees as the quality went up. We were a really good deal. So we had a lot of students who came from single parent families, very poor rural backgrounds, and we showed them how to rise with absolutely no limits. They said, this is our one chance. When we come out, we're as good as anybody else. And the only way to do that is sheer hard work. And they come in all colors, races, whatever. There's nothing to do with it. We've all been there. But no one speaks of these students. No one is interested in them. It's like the actual learning function is dismissed as, oh, all that stuff, who cares? That's getting get done anyway. Let's now talk about the things that really matter. And all the attention is on politics, gender identity, sexual preferences, money, of course, and a general disrespect for Vidya. Okay, disrespect for knowledge, education. I couldn't even ask this when I was there. Why are sexual preferences relevant when my class is about high-speed aerodynamics or rocket propulsion? I've never understood this, but if you mentioned that, you'd get fired. The administrators, unfortunately, often turn out to be crooked, corrupt, and simply too incompetent to even hide those facts. And this is the true defeat, the deep-running pandemic that must be eradicated. And I would say the same in India. Okay, I'm more afraid to speak out about what I see in India because I'm really not part of that, the system here, but you know what I'm talking about. So even I take perverse pleasure whenever I hear of another university president paid well over $1 million a year being asked to resign in humiliation. High time. More should happen. I think University of North Carolina recently canceled, speaking of cancelled culture, they canceled their entire department that dealt with whatever it is, $2.3 million a year, which would only go to pay 1.5 vice presidents and their flunkies. And they decided to take that money and put it into campus safety and the police. Applause to them. Okay, I'll stop there.
Well, all I have to say that Narayananji, Shobhaji, Niveditaji, I think most parents are going to relate to what this subject that I would say we have just touched this subject. It's so vast. The introduction itself, it's like it's got such a wide dimension that the introduction itself has got so many topics and so many facets here that we have to touch upon. So at this point, what I can say that, health, it needs a holistic approach. And one prescription tablet that, you swallow every day, it cannot be the remedy of all our ailments. So sometimes, yes, going back to our traditions, it may help to maybe magically resolve some of our problems. We don't know. It might happen. It has happened in the past. We have seen some examples, which we have not discussed yet. But in this, we have talked a lot today. We have learned a few things on all these topics. So I will once again like to thank Nivedita ji, Narayanan ji, and Shobha Swamy ji, who's a special guest. That she shared these nuggets of wisdom with our audience. But this is not it. This is just the introduction, part one. We are going to come back because we have to talk about all these tools that are going to help us overcome these issues which we and then our next generation is facing. So maybe something around plant-based nutrition and some other aspects of holistic living, thinking and lifestyle changes that can greatly benefit not only us but our next generation. So until then, thank you so much, the audience of Bharat Awakens. And next time we'll be back soon. And next time we will come back with Shobha Swamy and of course our permanent members of this team, Narayananji, Niveditaji, with a very, very interesting episode which you will need. I think at this time it's become a need at this time of the of our existence. So please do watch and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Namaste, namaskar.